Personally, I think what is a big barrier for getting women into the industry is that they don't often know what jobs are in construction or what different roles there are. Like I had no idea. Like I said, going into even halfway through an engineering degree, I just still didn't know what was out there.
Welcome to Building Perspective, the Master Builders SA podcast. I'm your host, Frogley. Join me as I speak with some characters in the building and construction industry.
How did CBUS become a top-performing super fund? By returning an average of 9.25% every year for the past 37 years. What does that mean? Well, it means we're pretty darn reliable. CBUS, for all of us. To consider if CBUS is right for you, go to cbussuper.com.au for a PDS and target market determination. Past performance is not a reliable indicator of future performance.
Welcome to Building Perspective, the Master Builders SA podcast. Building construction has always been one of the most male-dominated industries going around, but times are changing. There's more women getting into the industry than ever before, and who better to discuss women in the industry and where we're going than Dena English, the Master Builders 2021 Outstanding Woman in Construction. Welcome, Dena.
Thanks very much, Will. It's good to be here.
Great to have you here, Dena. So probably it's a good way to start by you just telling us about how you got into the industry and what your current role is now.
So I got into the industry just by chance, really, into construction itself. So I started off in engineering. I studied that really just based on my skill set, but I knew nothing of the construction industry. So it's not something I've grown up around or known anyone in the construction industry. And I had an opportunity to start in civil construction, and I've stayed in it since then. I've loved it. So now I'm working at Sarah Constructions as a QHSE manager. So a big change from engineering, but I've found something that I love doing, and this is what I'll stay in. I can't see myself doing anything else.
So tell me a bit more about your first job in the industry and how you kind of ended up progressing it into the role you're in now at a very large commercial builder.
Yeah, so I was studying engineering, and it was probably halfway through my degree, and I was questioning what I was doing. I think I found it was a bit dry doing so much design. I was considering whether to continue on with it, and my older sister was working in an admin role in a civil construction company, and she got me in for work experience. And I think that first role I just felt so comfortable being in construction. Like, everyone was so laid back. It was very different to the environments I was used to with uni, and it being very, I guess, academic and quite dry. And stepping into a civil construction role, particularly with the asphalt crews and those guys, it was a total different world. But the people were great, and it just felt very laid back and comfortable. And I knew then that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in construction. And from there, I moved into building from the graduate role that I took. So I worked in Tier 1 for a number of years, did a graduate program with Multiplex, and from there I guess I spent a long time trying to work out what I wanted to do in construction. Like I knew I wanted to be in the industry, but it did take me a while to find out what part of it was for me. And the grad program was a great way to try and, I guess, test out all different roles. And as I went through that, I kind of ticked off things that I didn't want to do. Like, I knew I probably wasn't cut out to be a supervisor. It's a bit different being in that sort of role. And there's a few things I didn't enjoy, like more of the contract admin and arguing about money was just not for me. So, but I really enjoyed QHSE, the quality and safety and environmental. And so a role came up at Sarah Constructions, and I'd worked with Adrian before, who's the CEO. So I'd worked with him previously at Multiplex, and he asked me to come in and do a few months in this QHSE role just to look at the systems and see what could be improved, having come from a bigger builder. And so I did that for a few months, and then went back to project administration, back on the projects, and then realised the QHSE was what I enjoyed more.
And what is it that you really enjoy about that area?
I think it's just I found something I'm good at. Like I enjoy it's going to sound ridiculous to a lot of people, but I enjoy the system side of it. I enjoy the problem solving, and I like to, I guess, look at what we're trying to achieve or what we're trying to comply with, and then finding a way to do that, but in a way that is practical. And how do we comply with all this regulation and everything that's put on us, but how do we make that easy for our guys on the ground, and guys and girls on the ground? And, so I guess I like that problem solving part of it. I'm very much a rule follower, and I like order, and so I guess a system sort of policy role is something that does suit my skill set. And yeah, I've also enjoyed how broad it is. I think when I was project based, you're very much working towards one goal. But in the role I'm in now, being a company level, like overseeing a number of different things, it's very diverse, and I'm dealing with something new every day, and my role just keeps expanding as I go on, and I like that variety.
Well, you're certainly working for a very large company that's got a heck of a lot of work going on at the moment, so
Absolutely.
That must definitely keep you on your toes.
Yes, definitely. It's been a lot of growth over the last few years. I think when I started, we had maybe 60 people, and now we're well over 200. So it's been a big learning curve as well for me, for a crucial part of my career, finding out what I want to do and growing in the role while the company is growing at the same time. It's been, a whirlwind few years.
And what do you see as some of the kind of key issues out there at the moment in your area that you're having to address or that you're seeing?
From a safety perspective in particular, there's always the mental health aspect of it. I think construction's very demanding. I think that's nothing new. These issues with the work hours and the flexibility or lack of flexibility, I think, in a lot of the roles in the construction industry, it is demanding with work hours, which can take a toll on your mental health, and it definitely creeps into your personal life. And I think as well, the last few years, particularly with myself, even with managing the risks of COVID, that's seen a bit of a blur between work and home, and that's been a bit of a struggle. But COVID's also brought with it, I feel like everyone's a bit more disconnected as well. And I mean, we've even that disconnect between sites or between office and site, having less movement of people has made everyone feel a little disconnected. It's something we've had to work hard on to make sure that we maintain that culture and keep everyone together, I guess. So that's a big one, and I don't know the answer to that, but I think we are getting better with the flexibility and different work arrangements. It is a conversation I see coming up more often now, and that is something as well that women in construction in particular, that can be a barrier. And so I think some work is needed in that space. And I think on another issue completely, I think we're seeing a lot of inexperience in the industry as well, which is leading to some issues definitely with safety, but also with quality as well. So those are a few issues that we're seeing recently.
Yeah, I absolutely agree on that, Dena. I think because, demand's been so high, capacity's been tested to the limits, and that's what really, stretches, your capabilities around trades and materials and everything, really, isn't it?
I think recently it's probably come about in the last couple of years. We've definitely seen more of that inexperience, and even, looking at our injury statistics and that sort of thing, there's definitely more representation of our young or inexperienced workers, and it's something that we've put a focus on now.
It's definitely something that's very important to us as well at MBA because we employ 150 apprentices, so
yes.
Safety is always a very high priority.
Yeah, as it should be.
Absolutely. So women in the industry in South Australia, they only make up about 10%, and if you're talking about being on the tools, it's actually more about 3%, which is pretty incredible. And we're talking about these shortages, but it feels like we're not even really tapping into potentially half our target market.
Yes. Personally, I think what is a big barrier for getting women into the industry is that they don't often know what jobs are in construction or what different roles there are. Like I had no idea. like I said, going into even halfway through an engineering degree, I just still didn't know what was out there. And I think that if they knew what different opportunities there were in the industry, then that would perhaps we would perhaps get more representation. And I think that starts at schools and universities to show them what they can do in the construction industry, because I think it is such a diverse and broad industry in terms of the skill sets that we do have, that it tends to be a role for anyone. And you said that low representation on the tools as well. I think that from a safety standpoint as well, we're not in the times where you have to be able to lift heavy things and like you don't have to be a big burly man to work on the tools. It's not like that. And I think that's probably a misconception that needs to be addressed, because, women can do it just as well as men can.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you talked about getting into schools. I think that's definitely crucial. We know that that's, a key time to influence kids, and particularly where there's such a big push to go into uni. One of the things we're speaking to the government at the moment about is whether we can get a dedicated female field officer whose sole job is to go out to schools or sporting clubs or whatever it might be and get more females into the industry. I think, for how much they'd be paid, think of the return on investment you'd get.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea, because when I was in school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was tossing up between engineering purely just based on that I was good at maths and physics, but I had no idea where that was going to take me. Or my other thing I was looking at was physio, which is totally different, and I'm glad I didn't pick that, because that's not at all in my skill set. But I guess had I known then what opportunities are out there, then it might have been something I pursued more actively, not, just landed in this, I guess.
So I take it Adrian Esplin's been a big influence on your career as to date. Who else has been a really big influence, and where would you like to go, Dena, in the next 10, 20 years?
Ooh, Adrian's definitely, he'd be one of the most influential people definitely on my career, having seen me through from a grad. He interviewed me for my grad position way back when, and also the time spent at Sarah. So he's been fantastic in that. But Steve Blackmore's another one as well. So I worked with him at Multiplex and now at Sarah as well, and he's been a great mentor for me. They're probably the two, and I think I've had others that have kind of gone in and out of my life through my career that have helped steer me to where I am now. And what's interesting is none of those have been women that I can think of that come to mind immediately. I haven't really had a strong woman role model. Yeah, I would hate to think if my mum was listening to this. I mean, from a work perspective, she's amazing. I think she encouraged me to go into engineering, so I can definitely thank my mum for that encouragement early on. And I think because she's a very smart woman, but I don't think she had the opportunities that I have now. And I think if she were growing up in this time, she would have perhaps done something similar. So I think she's been a fantastic influence for me as well. So going forward, I hope I can be a good mentor for others. So that's my driver for joining the MBA mentoring program, or even just less structured mentoring, even just through work, being a good influence or mentor for other women in the business and help build them up where I can. So in my immediate team, I've got 4 women in my team of 6, plus I've got about 18 safety officers. But those the women in particular, I make a point of trying to help them in their careers and steer them to where they want to be. So I think we are seeing a better representation generally, but not so much in management roles. And
is that something you think will come with time as more women, actually start in the industry?
Yes.
Is enough being done, though, to progress those women into those positions?
I do think so. From my view at Sarah, we do a lot to help the women, but it's across the board. It's not picking them out individually. Like we help the men as well, obviously, but I guess there's a few things that we are trying to do as well. We did a workshop at some point, like earlier last year, with a few key women in the business, just to talk about what would keep them in the business, or what would make them leave, or what is it that lured them to work at Sarah Constructions, and to try and gain some insight for how we can keep good women in the business. Like we see a lot of good graduates coming through, and we want to keep them and progress them. And so, who better to work that out than the women who are already there and in more senior roles? So we've definitely actively working in that space. And I think a big one is for them to feel connected with other women in the business is a big one. So because we've only got small representation or limited representation, they're often isolated or on different projects and don't have those opportunities to speak with the other women. So we've got to make a proactive effort to keep us all connected. And I try and do what I can to be, a good influence or a mentor for some of those younger ones.
And what would you say to a young woman who might be watching this podcast, who perhaps is 16, 17 in school, considering a career in building construction? What would you say to them, Dena?
I'd say go for it. Like it's such a diverse and interesting industry to work in. I think even if you don't know what it is you want to do or where you want to be, there's so much opportunity. And yeah, I've had a bit of a wonky path and zigzagged here and there, but I've landed on what I want to do, and I've enjoyed everything along the way. So I think you don't have to have a end goal in mind to start in the industry and find your place.
From my perspective, talent's talent, and doesn't matter if they're male, female, young, old, black, white, whatever. But have you ever experienced people who perhaps don't have that attitude in the industry, and how did you handle that?
I have. I guess I don't ignore it. I guess I'd kind of rise above it. Like if I've had comments come my way about me getting my role because I'm a female or I'm meeting a quota or for any of those sort of excuses. But I try not to entertain those thoughts. I just head down, do my job, and I do it well, and I'll prove them different. Yeah, you're right. Talent is talent. It's probably as simple as that.
I mean, for me, if you're looking at anything besides talent when you making a decision to hire someone, then we're in such a competitive industry that you're going to be left behind. You're a dinosaur.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see even with my immediate team, the diversity that we have, it really brings another level of what we can achieve, and that diversity of thought that we do have. Like it's very much in, I guess, with project management in particular, I think there's definitely a cookie cutter, like that a lot of project managers kind of look the same, sound the same, and it's not always that way. But I think in safety in particular, you get all sorts of people. Like I feel like there's not a lot of people that set out for, I'm going to be a safety manager, I'm going to be a safety officer or whatever. It's we've all kind of landed in this. And in my team in particular, we've got, a mix of females, males. We've all come from different areas of, either engineering or, one used to work at a butcher, another one worked in a factory. And we've got, even with that's just my immediate team, and then safety officers have all come from different walks of life as well. And I think it adds a different diversity of thought, and we all have different ideas to bring to the table. And I think that if we saw more of that across the industry, it would be a great thing.
Again, this is probably a question more so for someone who's not in the industry yet, but again, a young person in school. What kind of jobs do you build? What does your day-to-day working life perhaps look like? That would be a pretty interesting question for a lot of people who might be watching this podcast.
Yeah, day-to-day for me, it's very different. Every day is different. So we've got, it's all the frequent safety questions about what's going on site, or how do we do something safely? How do we manage a contractor, or incident management, injury management, managing return to work with injured workers. And with quality, it's more around what we're working on at the moment is improving our systems in QA. So, and then in environmental, we've got sustainability that we're working on as well, and some great initiatives in that space. So even just that QHSE, that is just so broad in what I do. So we've got, a number of initiatives we're working on. I also maintain our compliance. So there's a lot of audits, which is not, I shouldn't say that to anyone who's looking to come into the industry. That's not going to draw them in at all.
I've always dreamed of going through audits.
Yeah. No, maybe cut that bit out. So it's every day is different. And I think the last couple of years managing COVID as well, it's been that's been just nonstop. Like it's interesting managing. We've obviously got the safety side of it, but then the HR side of it, and just managing people, and you have such a range of how people have coped with it, and it's definitely, I guess, worked on my people skills as well with some of that. It's been a bit sensitive to deal with sometimes. So yeah, every day is different, and on top of that as well, it's managing people has been something I've had to focus on the last few years. I've gone from a few years ago having a team of 2, just me and a coordinator, to now having immediate team of 6 of us now, and plus around, I think it's about 18 safety officers to manage. And that's something that I've really had to put an effort on my people skills, because coming from an engineering background, it's not really you don't think of engineers as people, like people. So I had to work on that. It's when I took over managing safety officers in particular, I didn't think there was too much to it. I was like, oh, what do you have to do? Just approve some leave applications here and there, and there's not so much to it. But there's so much that comes to it, and even day to day, just the management of people and working on their development and trying to help those people achieve what they want to achieve. And I've had to try and find that balance of how much of my time do I invest in each of these individuals to try and help them get where they want to be, because I want to do as much as I can, but also have to do my job at the same time.
So is it a big part of it is then getting to know your people and what will get the best out of them? Is that what you try and focus on?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had to learn to like how do you influence people and get the best out of them, and how do you drive them, and finding it's not a one size fits all. Like some people love praise and a pat on the back for things, whereas others are driven by money or by status and their title and promotion, or others just like to get work done and like to just head down, do a good job, and don't care for praise. So it's getting to know each individual and what drives them and what keeps them interested and happy to come to work every day. And it has been interesting, like I said, with safety, people working in safety, it's such a diverse group that it's a lot of different personalities, and a lot that are quite significantly older than me, which is an interesting dynamic to navigate. But I think I've built good relationship with each of the people in my team, and I'm happy with where we're at. And it's been a big learning curve, but it's I think I've come out the other side of it a better manager.
Fantastic. Well, I think, Dena, you're a great role model, not just for women in the industry, but for any young people who are coming up through the industry. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come in today and tell us about your story. And I wish you all the best going forward.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining me on Building Perspective. For more information on Master Builders or our guests, please visit our website at mbasa.com.au.